Okay, Robin, what are your feelings about the tech stocks? I was watching an interview that you gave earlier in the year that you were nibbling in on some of these e-commerce names. What's the investment strategy now, given that a few months on we have, of course, this issue to do with the ADRs, with the US and Chinese regulators? There is some suggestion we could actually see an acceleration of that delisting deadline, but also interested on your take on Li He's comments a few weeks ago, certainly looking encouraging when it comes to that tech crackdown, perhaps in the rearview mirror now.
Yeah, and that last point's a key one. I think even since the Trump days, we've seen, I think, the Chinese policymakers still very keen to be able to access capital overseas. So certainly from the Chinese side, I think there's a real push for progress, and I think we know what needs to be done. It's really oversight of the accounts in China, and I think on the one side, both sides are kind of working on that. At the same time, as you say, there is legislation in Congress that could kind of force the deadline. Another leg to that, obviously, is actually in Hong Kong. There have been a number of relaxations to allow these stocks to relist back in Hong Kong. So reasonably positive on where that ADR or relisting back in Hong Kong story is going to go. In general, for the internet platforms, interesting this year, very mixed performances. You've seen some resilience from the likes of Baidu, VIP. On the other hand, some of the secondary names without listing in Hong Kong are being quite weak. Our strategy all year has been, and in general, actually, to opportunistically add to the areas we like. We quite like the Baidus, we quite like the JDs. We're a little bit ambivalent on both the Alibabas and Tencent, too big and too constrained in the verticals that they're going to be allowed to go into.
As you say, we are off the lows. Certainly we saw the CSI 300 index having a pretty good month last month, the best all year. But certainly this reopening back to sort of the broader markets over in Shanghai has been met with some caution. Where does that leave the investment strategy, given so many uncertainties at the moment?
Yeah, and that's the nervousness. And I can tell you within our broader, we run Asia and EM books, we've gone from sort of underweight to neutral. Why are we not overweight now, given what we hope is, the worst of the COVID over, quite aggressive stimulus. And I think those are the various risks that are still outstanding. I think the key one remains, frankly, COVID. You kind of want to war against COVID short term, but we know how infectious it is. So that's going to be an ongoing risk. The other is ongoing inflation. Inflation will remain extremely sticky, particularly in the context of what's going on in Ukraine and what's going on with energy and food prices. And lastly, the property market in China remains under considerable stress. I think this is a key leg with regards to confidence domestically. And that is the problem at the moment. Although there's been more stimulus, there hasn't really been the confidence there. At the moment, it's sort of pushing on a piece of string. And I think to get the confidence back, you do need this more stimulus. And I think you do need to stabilize the property market. And it appears to me that more needs to be done there.